By now you've had a chance to take a look and see that the 203k manual is about 500 pages long, and that can be daunting for anyone. It's especially daunting for someone new who hasn't ever experienced a 203k or wasn't exactly sure what one is. It can be daunting for a homeowner as well. Now, we're not expecting you to know the entire 500 pages of the manual, but you have to be familiar enough with a 203k or a home style so that if that comes up from a customer as something they're looking to do, that you understand it and can converse about it. You're going to have good lender partners and realtor partners who also know some about that, and the lenders are going to walk them through the lending portion of the process, but it's your job to make sure you understand how it works so that when you're out there talking to them, they can feel you're the expert. So the process on the screen, you can see this is for someone who's using a 203k or a home style to purchase a home. The process is the same if they're refinancing. It's just a difference on how that happens, right? So if they're purchasing a home, it's subject to closing on the home and becoming the owner of that home. If they're refinancing, they already own it, and the process can be a little shorter on the lending side. So looking at it as a purchase, a buyer finds a house that just needs something. Maybe the kitchen and the bath are outdated, or maybe it needs a new roof, could need a new septic. There's actually 35 different categories of items that can be done, of selections and specs that can be done on a 203k. And we can handle all of those for them. We're a management company that'll manage the entire process, bring in all the tradespeople that can handle doing the work. So they find a home. It needs certain items to be fixed. They're thinking of buying it with a 203k. They're going to have what's called a HUD inspection. Now, we've worked with most of the HUD consultants in the state, and we know those that are good and those that are not so good, so we can sort of help steer them to one of the partners that we think could do a great job for them if they don't have someone. But in any case, on a 203k, if it's more than a $35,000 repair, they have to have a HUD inspection done. And by the way, we recommend that they always have a HUD inspection done because it's going to uncover things that can benefit them. The HUD inspector is looking at a couple of different things. He's looking for deficiencies that would cause health or safety issues, things that show up after it's inspected that they would need to have repaired to make sure that the house is safe and that it's sound. They're also going to talk to them if they're there with the potential buyer with some of the things they'd like to have done. When they create that report, they're going to review the property and they're going to list things that are mandatory, things that have to be completed within the 203k rehab loan. They also might list some things that are customer choice. Often we'll see them put things in there that are not really mandatory. They're not health and safety issues, but it's something that the homeowner wants to have done. So they'll list that in there and they'll say customer choice so that we know that we don't have to necessarily fit that into their budget, but the customer would like to fit that into their budget and we can address it. We go out and we review the property and we go through the mandatory repair list. We'll go out to a site visit. We go through, we take a look at everything that's been noted by the HUD inspector. We'll take a look at all of the wish list items, as they're called, the customer choices, things they'd like to have done, so that we can then put together a line item work proposal of all of the work to be done. In CoConstruct, we can put together a proposal, a home cost analysis, that will give that breakdown of labor and material in all 35 categories that apply. Lenders love to have that. Most contractors don't do that or don't have the ability to do that, but we can put that together. We then give that to the HUD inspector, who will put that into an SOR, a scope of repair, that they then give to the lender to then begin the underwriting process on that loan. What happens next? Well, they're going to take a look at what's in there. It's going to be itemized by material and labor. It's going to have all of the health and safety issues listed. It's going to have the wish list items listed. They're going to then begin processing it. They're going to look at the inspection report. This is the lender looking at the inspection report. They're going to order an appraisal, and they're going to have the appraiser take a look at what is on the SOR, what the value of the home is before the repair, and they're going to come up with an after repair value for that home. So what does that mean? They're going to look at it and say, right now the home is worth X amount of dollars, but if these repairs are completed and if these upgrades are done, the after value is this. Typically on a 203k, you can go up to 110% of the value in terms of the rehab loan. After the appraiser is done and they get that back to the lender, our write-up the SOR, the appraisal all go into underwriting, and they begin to take a look at it to determine, A, are they creditworthy to buy the home, and that has nothing to do with us. B, is everything listed in there that needed to be listed in there, and has the appraiser also looked at it? And C, where is the value, and can this work for this loan? They'll underwrite it. They'll ask for information from us if we haven't worked with them before. They'll send out a contractor package for us to sign off on. It'll include a copy of the SOR. It'll include, typically on the SOR, a draw schedule. It'll include our proposal and then some other information that they're going to want about us, our license, our insurance, and things like that. Once all of that happens and they get a clear to close, a closing date is set. Once the closing date is set up, we're now getting prepared to begin that work. We will now toggle on a project manager to begin looking at it. They'll begin preparing and building their team. Closing happens. We have a new homeowner. HUD wants the work to begin within 30 days. That's their rule. So that means we have to get on it pretty quickly, because typically permits can take 1 or 2 weeks, and with COVID even longer sometimes. We can't start the work till we have the permits, and they want to see it start within 30 days. Typically on a 203k you have up to 6 months to complete the project. So we're going to want to be working on schedule and keep it on budget so that everything happens within the time period that HUD has allowed for that. Along the way, there'll be something called draws. That's where the HUD consultant will come out and he'll make progress inspections. And those are a little bit different than town inspections. The building inspector will come out and do their thing too. If there's plumbing and electrical involved and whatnot, they also need to come out and do those inspections. But from our side, the HUD consultant will go out, he'll do a progress inspection, he'll submit the draw request to the lender that we've submitted to him based on the work we've said that's been completed, and then the lender then issues a payment to us. We go through that process, and it could be anywhere from 3 to 5 draws depending on the project size. Typically we're seeing 5 draws. Once we get toward the end of the project and we know that we're going to be finished by a particular date, we then can talk a little bit about using the contingency, and I'll talk about that more in the next video. But there's additional items that they can sometimes add to their project after the fact by using the contingency. The contingency is actually set up in case we run into one of those oh shit moments where we open up a wall and we find something we didn't expect. But when we get to 70 or 75% of the project completion, we typically know by then we're not going to see that, and then our project managers start talking to the homeowner about what they might want to use that contingency for. But again, we'll cover that a little bit more later. This is just more about the process. Once everything is completed, all of the inspections are done, the building inspector signs off on the work to be able to close out the permit. The HUD inspector signs off and says, yes, we can issue the final draw. We have met with the customer and done a final walkthrough, made sure there's not any punch list items. Everything is done. The homeowner then gets to move in. Now, there are times when a homeowner needs to move in before we've completed the work, and that's okay, but they can't move in until the house is habitable. What does it need to have? For example, it needs to have a heating system, it needs to have water, it needs to have electricity, needs to have certain things done to make it habitable. So those types of things are typically addressed early on in the project if someone needs to move in before we're going to be complete. The best way for the best and easiest flow for something like this is if we can complete all the work before they actually move in when it's a purchase. Obviously, when it's a refi, they're typically going to be living there because they've already lived there. They're refinancing because they want to get something upgraded, a kitchen, a bath. Maybe they need a new roof and windows, siding. There's a whole lot of reasons why they could do it as a refi, but they're probably going to be living there through the process. So that's just an additional level that we need to deal with when we're out there. But again, the process is they find a house, the realtor puts an offer in, they bring out a HUD inspector. Sometimes we can go out before the HUD inspector and see what we see, but we're always going to want to follow up after the HUD inspection to make sure we've covered all those health and safety issues. We then submit everything to the lender, as does the HUD inspector. They underwrite it, they appraise it, they approve it, they close it. Within a couple of weeks, we start work, and within that 6-month period, we have completed that project, and the customer moves into their brand new I Love It home. More to follow on 203Ks, but that's just a basic summary.